everybody, Cal Banyan here, Cal Banyan's Hypnosis, etc. And once again with L. Ron Ferguson. Gosh, I don't know if we can remember exactly how to do a podcast with a co-host. It's been so long, but we went from having 2 people to 3 people to just me. And when I had you all to myself, you know what I did? I riled up a bunch of people. That's okay. You ain't even seen Riled Up yet. Wait until we go through this list of what we're going to be doing in this next series. In fact, we got so much Rile Upage to do, I got 2 clipboards. 1, 2. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right. If you're watching this video anywhere except calbanyan.com, go there right now, because right below this video on calbanyan.com, we have supporting information. We have graphics. We have links, all that stuff, and the place where you can put comments to let us know what you think. All right, let me tell you about L. Ron. L. Ron has had a lifelong interest in hypnosis and psychology and how the mind works. He had his own practice before he came to train with me at the Banyan Hypnosis Center, got his certification in 5-path and 7-path, and then is one of the very few people who've undergone the torment of our internship program. He is now an expert on 5-path and 7-path, and he writes for the Banyan Hypnosis e-zine on www.hypnosis.org. How you doing, L. Ron?
I'm doing good, Cal. And it's good to be back. It feels like it's been forever since I've been on the show.
I know. I'm used to carrying the whole thing by myself.
I know. It was like all the way in, last year or something like that.
Yeah. Gosh. The hardest thing about doing it by yourself is, when you have a co-host, when they talk, you can have a sip of whatever you're drinking, or you can sniffle or whatever, and it gets edited out because, But when you're sitting there, if you got to scratch or sniff or anything like that, you got to do it right there on camera, and the whole world gets to know who you really are. All right. Hey, so what are we going to do?
Sorry, I was just drinking my water. So, we are going to do some controversial topics today, Cal. Don't you have some criteria for those?
Hey, the deal is I went through, I thought, what are some of the most interesting or controversial topics in the profession of hypnosis, and I made up a list and then sent it off to Elron and Meredith, and they, added their stuff, and then we sent it to the 5-path group and a couple other Yahoo groups, and they added stuff. I think Celeste Hackett, you all know her if you've been on for a while, because she was a co-host of mine back in the earlier days, and she had like a dozen different things. So that's it. And as we get into this new, more controversial phase, before I do that, let me tell you, if you're interested in going further in the profession, guess what you got to do? You got to go to the National Guild of Hypnotists Solid Gold Weekend. That's coming up. It's only a few weeks away. It is, I'm always trying to remember this, February, I'm looking up at my I got a huge calendar over there, February 26th and 27th, 2011. Be there. I'm going to be there. I'll be talking about mastering age regression, and there's going to be a whole bunch of other people. Look up there, down there. I got information all over the site about it. Go to ngh.net. They've got all the latest info. And also, if you're interested in going through becoming a 5-pather, becoming a 1%er, becoming a 7-path teacher, check out my courses. I got a list over here, right there. Depending where this video is on the website, it could be up there, could be down there, but over there on your right side of the video. Check it out. We teach a course about 3 or 4 times a year, and you can have it at our center, or you can actually go through it online. All right, enough of that stuff. I have some opening statements, because we're going to be delving into this world of opinion. And opinions are like belly buttons. Everybody's got one, and they're near and dear and close to your heart. Well, some people, their belly buttons are farther away from their heart than other people, but you know what I mean. And so sometimes people get a little bit, persnickety, so to speak, about opinions. So here are my 8 things I want you to keep in mind. Number 1, we retain the right to change our mind when confronted with new information. This is how we think about it now, how we feel about it now. Times can change. This is, 2011. You guys might be watching this in 2050 or 2250 or in the year 2525, if man is still alive. And we are characters of our environment and our time as we are now. If you have information, number 2, or resources that you believe we've overlooked, that is what the comments section before is. So if you're watching this anywhere except calbanyan.com, go there, leave us a comment. It's right below the video. And also, if you want to pass it on, hit the like button so that this podcast can go on Facebook and so your friends can see it. Number 3, these hypnosis training videos are not intended to be complete discussions or dissertations on the topic. In the 20 to 25 minutes that we put into these videos, of which, maybe 15 to 20 minutes is actual content, then you know what? We can't cover every particular nuance. Number 4, we are not lawyers. We are not giving legal advice. Number 5, we are not doctors. Information provided in these podcasts or published here are just like a public service. They're not intended to diagnose or treat any medical condition. You should not practice medicine or psychology without a license. Obey all the laws where you live and practice. 7, basically, be smart, use common sense, and if you want to talk more about this, hey, join the NGH, start a chapter, and keep the discussion going. Anything you want to add to that, Elron?
I think you got it covered, Cal.
Gosh, I've got to find a way to shorten that for the next one. It's a lot of stuff. But, I think that we might generate some complaints, and I don't want to give them anything to complain about that is unfair. Okay. All right, next thing. We're going to be going through these topics one after the other, and we needed a razor, kind of like how do we decide whether or not our opinions are really valid. And so I came up with this very short list of 6 things that I think is what we have to keep predominantly in our mind as we go through these topics. Number 1, our decision should cause no harm. It should be legal. It should be ethical. So number 1, do no harm. Number 2, it must be legal. Number 3, must be ethical. Number 4, it must be effective if we're talking about a technique or procedure process. 5, it must be good for the professional at large. And then sometimes we got to remember that there's individual differences, and that what might be the right thing to do for one person might not be the right thing for another. So those are what we're going to try to keep in mind as we go through each one of these topics. Now, what do you have as topic number 1 for us, Elron, or do you want to add anything to that?
I think the list is pretty complete, Cal. But for topic number 1, I think we should start off with probably the most controversial thing. I'm sure I'm going to get plenty of hate mail for this, but should hypnotherapists be licensed?
Well, let me say something to the viewers and listeners. Elron and I have not gotten together on these ahead of time. I don't know what his opinion is. He doesn't know what my opinion is. That we might have different opinions about this, and that's okay. So, we're not ganging up on anyone. We don't have talking points, so to speak. All right. So let them have it. What do you think? Should they be? Should hypnotherapists be licensed?
Yeah, I think this might get exciting. I mean, from time to time, you and I might wholeheartedly disagree on things. That might be interesting. But, Cal, I was thinking about this on the way over here. I was thinking about it last night. I was thinking about it last week. And I got to admit, I go back and forth on it all the time. I mean, maybe I need some parts mediation therapy to resolve an internal conflict on this issue. But as of right now, I'm more, because it's not really a black and white thing, because it's like we were saying, there are individual differences, and depending on the context, how do you feel at the time? But I think at large, or perhaps in the future, I think the answer is yes. This is my opinion. I think yes, the profession should be licensed. Not right now, but eventually. I would like to see the profession move toward something that is more of a first choice toward problems, or in solving problems, that has a very, very high level of professional training that is akin to doctors, dentists, even regular MFTs and that kind of stuff, with specialized training and an actual real credential. The reasons for that is that I think if the profession is more accepted by other professionals, it'll make it easier for hypnotherapists to get business or to promote themselves. I think that it will elevate the profession ultimately. I mean, there's obviously some drawbacks to being licensed, because, as Cal always says, the only reason that you give a license is so you can take it away. And we're going to get into that when I turn it over to you, Cal. But, I mean, let's be honest. Right now, you can get a certificate in clinical hypnotherapy in 3 days. And it doesn't necessarily mean anything. And there's a lot of people in the professions that, maybe they're social workers, maybe they're other psychologists, that they know that. And when they're talking to you and you're networking your services, you're getting grouped into, oh yeah, you're one of those life coaches that took a weekend certification program, and you don't really know anything about how to actually help someone with their problem. And since I think a license would help to promote standards in the profession, maybe have schools come in line, maybe get people to agree on a definition of hypnosis. I could go on and on and on, but I want to see what you think, Cal.
All right. I can understand you feeling that way. I once thought like you, and like you, I was completely wrong. Let me tell you, I thought all the same things, I felt the same things, but then what I did is I talked to a couple of people who've really had some experience in the profession, longer than I, and that's Dr. Reverend Scott Giles, and also Dr. Damon, president of the National Guild of Hypnotists. And really what we talked about was that there's only really one reason to license someone to do something, and that is if the something you do is dangerous and can hurt someone. And really, for thousands of years, people have been in a state of suggestibility at varying levels, and being in hypnosis and just simply being in the state of hypnosis, is not damaging, it's not hurtful. The person can always refuse suggestions and that kind of thing. So, I understand that the pros are like provide public credibility, provide individual prestige to hypnotists that have maybe poor self-esteem, or they're particularly, they don't have confidence in themselves and they can wave their license around. But, some of the problems is, who are we going to have license us? Are we going to have the AMA or the APA? Are they going to take over our profession and tell us, what we can do and what we can't do? So I'm for less regulation in just about everything. Less government involvement in my life, less government regulation, and that kind of thing. And by the way, this idea of 3-day certifications, that's not something that the National Guild of Hypnotists provides. And what I think will happen is it's really the hypnotist profession's responsibility to educate the public, and also to educate other professionals such as psychologists, doctors, psychiatrists, whatever, in the value of the National Guild of Hypnotists certification programs, or other program that really is meaningful, as opposed to these overnight or 3-day or weekend courses. How do you think about that?
I think, I think your reasons are getting in my mind. I'll consider those, think about them. Ideally, there would be something in the effect of an independent organization, perhaps that was partially government related, but that was definitely connected to some of the other professional therapeutic organizations that could somehow quality control, or that you could get a quality stamp of certification or a type of a license that maybe not necessarily be the same as a federal license that, like people that are in the professions that can harm people have, right? Like doctors and that sort of thing, because we don't prescribe, nobody's ever been hurt by hypnosis, not really, okay? But maybe in the future, because, it's like I said in the beginning of my statement, I don't want it to be licensed right now. I don't think that right now, with the way that a lot of these organizations are run, both federally and state, and some of the psychological related organizations would do a good job if they licensed us right now. I certainly don't want to be held to the same criteria that some psychologists in the profession are. But if it could somehow be regulated with some type of a third-party quality control, so that you can have that not just for the hypnotherapist, but for the consumer as well, I think. What are your thoughts on that, Cal?
Well, the thing is, first of all, the medical doctors and psychologists typically aren't federally licensed. I think they're state licensed. Yep. And I think that maybe we may develop into some other, we might become licensed someday. I think that is not, I don't currently believe that's a desirable situation at any time in our future, but maybe there is an alternative kind of thing done on a state-by-state basis where they are recognized some way, like registered or something like that, or certified, or particular organizations meet particular criteria, and then they accept those certifications in the state. But really, you know what? Our profession is getting along just great without licensure, without certification. At least in the United States. I know other countries are different. And I believe in freedom and people having their own good sense. If somebody does something that's illegal, they should go to jail or pay a fine or whatever. But if you're practicing, you're not hurting anyone, you're being effective, then people will come, they'll seek you out. And I would vote down any kind of regulation at all, because what we do is harmless. We're basically just talking, and where people say, I want to hit the ball farther. And we say, okay, we hypnotize them and tell them they're going to hit the ball farther. Or they want to quit smoking cigarettes, and we empower them to do that. Or we empower them to lose weight, or we help them get rid of erroneous fears. Perhaps there could be an offshoot where someone is working specifically with medical situations, and maybe some kind of certification there. But right now, we're still getting along fabulously without any kind of licensure, any kind of registration. By and large, anywhere in the United States, there might be a state or two here and there where they require some kind of registration or something like that. But heck, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Let's keep the government out of our lives as much as we can. Remember, as soon as you bring the government into things, politics happen, number one. Taxes happen, number two, and three, politics happen. And gosh, I would rather not have any more of that in my life than necessary. All right, why don't you wrap up the topic? I'll let you have the last word.
The last word?
Yeah.
Well, as in any argument, the risk that one always puts themselves into when they engage in an argument, that is the real sense of argument, which is reason giving. Because it's not just about having a conflict, but it's about, maybe having your mind changed when you engage in this kind of a discourse. And I think, after this conversation, I'm starting to lean a little bit more toward maybe not letting it be licensed, but like I said, still sticking to my guns of maybe having some third-party organization, just some extra credentials so there can be quality control for the consumer and for the hypnotherapist, and to promote, perhaps maybe every organization should promote standards much more, passionately, so to speak. And ultimately something to set it apart so that it just doesn't all come down to the marketing. Because one person's marketing is better than the other, but they're really a much poorer hypnotherapist, and just some other way to protect the consumer and the hypnotherapist as well. But pretty much that's all I have to say about that. Thanks, Cal.
Hey, and I'm the same way, and my training in psychology, is really that of a scientist practitioner. And my mind is open. If somebody has some very good reasons for either promoting L. Ron's view or my view, or maybe there's a third view or a fourth view, please just leave a comment below. We're open, and we can always revisit these topics and talk about some insight that you had as a viewer or listener that we didn't get. All right, let me kind of introduce the next topic, see if we can squeeze some of that in. And what do you have next?
Why don't we segue right into, let's see, what is it? What is the minimum number of hours of training a hypnotist should receive to become certified? kind of along the same lines, but yeah, one of my favorite soapboxes.
All right. You want me to start first this time?
Go for it.
All right. See, what I did is we did decide, I said, Ron, we had this list of 30 different topics. I said, pick out your first favorite 4 or 5 you want to hit, and he gave them to me, and then I kind of organized them last night as maybe some obvious pros and cons to each one. So what's the minimum number of hours of training a hypnotist or hypnotherapist or consulting hypnotist, hypnosis professional should have to become certified or otherwise be able to work in the field? And by setting, first of all, it begs the question of, should we require any minimum number of hours? Why don't we just do anarchy or the total libertarian approach? And that is, man, if you can, get your name on a card and that says, Cal Banyan hypnotist, and then you can go out there and start doing it. Why not? I mean, we are a completely unregulated profession. I mean, in most states in the United States, you could do that. And but I don't think that's a very good idea. But the truth is, in the vast majority of places in the United States, there is a complete libertarian view on that, and that is anything goes. Now, of course, we highly recommend that you don't do that. But let me run that by Ron. What do you think about that idea that anything goes?
No. I hate that, quite frankly. That's how I feel about that. I think it's terrible. I think it's one of the worst things that's ever happened to our profession, quite frankly.
Would that be a libertarian or a liberal point of view?
Both. I think it'd just be downright stupid.
That's downright tie-dye T-shirt and headbands, isn't it?
Uh-huh. Might as well have Oregon, tattooed on your forehead.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay. So I'm going to go with, I think both of us agree there should be some minimum number of hours, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So I got some pros. And the pros of doing that is setting a particular number of hours, excuse me, provides credibility for the profession. All the things that, really everything that you made argument about with regard to licensure, it really goes for setting some minimum number of hours. And another positive is an increase in likelihood of sufficient training. And so obviously the organization that requires some minimal number of hours, which, my favorite guideline is that of the National Guild of Hypnotists, just because, they're producing so many really qualified hypnotherapists. Our training, it happens to be 125 hours about in 10 days, but we cram some extra stuff in there, such as 7-path and that kind of thing. So really, from my experience, I know that as a course that breaks into the profession, you really have to have some minimum number of hours. I'm thinking that 100, 125, minimum 100 hours of training looks good. Elron, guess what?
Ah!
Do you want to get 1 or 2 words in before we end the episode? We can take this up
Let's
next
just
episode.
end it on a cliffhanger. I'll be back with my 2 cents next week.
All right, wrap it up.
All right, thank you for watching Hypnosis, etc., the show where we give you tips, tricks, and techniques on how to be a better hypnotherapist and talk about the profession, give you some ideas, stuff to think about. All right, thanks for watching. I'm Ron Ferguson, signing off.
Thank you, Elron. This is Cal Banyan. Go to, fan us. Be a fan on Facebook. And it's just facebook.com/hypnosis, etc. That's HYPNOSISETC, because that's where we talk about the dirt. I mean, the insider tips, tricks, and techniques in between the episodes. And let's see, I'm also available on Twitter, twitter.com/calbanyan.com, and make sure to go to hypnosis.org. We've got some really cool videos there on how to hypnotize, insider tips, tricks, and techniques, where I go into really some stuff I don't have time to go into on the show in depth on how to hypnotize and some insider tips, tricks, and techniques. All right, that's it. Cal Banyan signing off. This recording is the property of Cal Banyan and Cal Banyan's Banyan Publishing Incorporated. All rights reserved for private use only, may not be duplicated without written permission.